apa lah? Loh.
Okay, good morning guys. Welcome to the Tasman Island cruise. My name is Andrew. We've got Kai with us this morning. Quite nice conditions here on the east coast of the Tasman Peninsula. It's going to give us the opportunity to run down past Cape Point, Cape Hilla, get down to Tasman Island where we'll do some exploring. To avoid a bit of movement with the southerly wind, we'll do a U-turn at Tasman and finish back up the coast. So utilising this east coast with the massive sea, a lot of shelter out of that. If you can, just stay on your side of the boat though, it'll keep the boat weighted evenly, and I'll do a few circles and make sure that view comes to you. But underneath some nice big sedimentary sea cliffs here, and then on the right here we've got a nice big archway called Tasman's Arch, probably one of the most famous rock features on our coastline. So this mudstone is quite susceptible to coastal erosion. So even today with just a little bit of wave action here, these cliffs are eroding away, and any sea cave that opens up will often have these tactical groups. So we're just looking at weak points that open up in sea caves. And in the case of the big archway, a bit of freshwater erosion from above as well. The back of the sea cave has collapsed, leaving this huge arch. And no doubt the archway will probably collapse into the sea at some stage as well. But if you look up through the archway, you can see a handrail up through the back there. It's great to check this one out from the top as well, if you ever get the chance. And this one's absolutely perfect for the lazy bushwalker. It's only about a dozen or so steps out of your car, and you can be out at the rail there looking back down to where we are now. Yeah, so this is Permian mudstone laid down on the ocean floor about 250 to 290 million years ago. So it is a very old rock type, and it basically formed with silts and sediments washing down off the coast, getting deposited out onto the ocean floor, and then compressed under the weight of the ocean. So that's why we see these horizontal layers here. Each of those layers slowly built up over millions of years. Looking at the back of the archway there, you can see those huge car-sized boulders and slabs where big sections of the roof and the walls are given away. And like I said, the archway will probably collapse at some stage as well. There is a nice bushwalk out over the top though, and it's probably safe for another 100,000 years, so nothing too much to worry about there. But if this ever collapses, we'll be left with a big gulch here. And there is another rock feature just about south of the Devil's Kitchen, which is pretty much exactly that, two gulch like this without the roof over the top.
But this is a fantastic showcase of those sedimentary layers as well. Really different colours all through it. But the main reason for our visit is this wonderful waterfall we see out on our right-hand side. You might be surprised to know this is a fair amount of water coming from its edge. We need about 100 mil of consecutive rain around Tasmania to make it into a cascading fall. But this is pretty beautiful where it is. We can get Andrew to drive in close and you can fill up your water bottles. This bay here is famous for something else, but it's something else we cannot see. It is the Cathedral Cave System, a really popular spot for scuba diving. It's actually Australia's largest mapped network of underwater sea caves. Named Cathedral Caves because some sections of it are as large as the cathedral. Now bear in mind, it is completely pitch black dark in there, and it goes back mapped 500 metres, over 500 metres. There's some sections that are so narrow and small, you have to take off your BCD, your breathing apparatus, push that through and then follow through in the pitch black darkness. So it's definitely not for the faint-hearted, and you do have to have some certain certificates for this dive. There is even more to the caves as well that have not been mapped, just because of the length your air can last down there. But that is just on the left-hand side. The entrance to it starts there. But there is a lot of easier dives in this area as well. There's a beautiful kelp. There's also things like weedy sea dragons here. So there's some fantastic options if you're into that.
You are welcome to stand up if you want to, guys, when we stop like this. Just remember, as much as you want to.
You'll see a lot of this kelp around our edges as well, around the shoreline. This one is called bull kelp. So this is very high in iodine. In Tasmania, our soil is very poor in iodine, so this is a very popular resource for the Palawa people. When it's on the rocks, it's soft and malleable, but when it dries out, you can kind of make it into water-carrying devices or different things like that while stitched together. It's great showcasing in the Tasmanian Museum and Art Gallery, so if you do want to check that out, it's very worth it.
No, I'm holding you.
So 750 horsepower. Yep. You kind of need it. We've got 40 people on board, and we pack 2,000 litres of fuel, so it's too much. We definitely need all 750 horsepower, I reckon. For sure. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yep. So that's the totem pole. The bigger sea stack next to it's called the Candlestick, and the two big islands out the end
Stand
called
for
the Lanterns.
Very comment. I'm holding it.
Cape Point itself, one of the most popular day walks in Tasmania. It's about a 4-hour return walk from the beach we just passed at Fortescue Bay, so well worthwhile. And also part of a bigger network of walking trails called the Three Capes Track. It's quite a famous multi-day bushwalk now. Where those bushwalkers will start around in Port Arthur Harbour on a little beach called Denman's Cove. They spend 3 days walking up to Cape Pillar, where we'll end up down near Tasman Island. Day 4 they're on top of Cape Hoy here, and they actually finish on the beach at Fortescue 46 kilometres later.
Did you see that stone, Bob?
But it is a
Standing?
different rock type. we're
Vertical
looking at now.
stone?
This
So
is
vertical.
Jurassic dolerite. So we've left those mudstone layers behind.
Do you know these
It's not the most
mountains are
coastline
from
out
the
there in
when the
Tasman Island.
dinosaur was here?
As that name suggests,
Yeah.
Jurassic dolerite. It was formed about 180 million years ago, and at that time we had the dinosaurs wandering around.
You see?
The Earth's
You see?
land masses were falling apart, and a liquid magma forced up through the Earth's crust. It didn't quite get to the surface though. That liquid magma was trapped underneath the softer mudstone that we saw earlier. That allowed it to slowly cool underground, and it was during that slow cooling period that the big vertical columns formed that this coast is so famous for. And that little totem pole, it's probably the very best example we have of a vertical column of dolerite. It runs at about that diameter right down to sea level, which we'll get a much better look at shortly when we get around to the other side.
What are those orange cones?
So we've got sea kayakers inside us here, so lots of kayakers that would have paddled from the beach at Fortescue Bay. So I might just push up into this corner in front of us just to avoid being near the scuba divers. And just taking it nice and easy because I also don't want to throw a huge wake at the sea kayakers in there. I don't think they'll be too happy with us if we do that.
Tell us when so we get a
We'll get some angry phone calls this afternoon if we do that. Species of fur seal on the Tasman Peninsula. At Cape Point, most of the seals that we see here are the long nose. You might see a couple of Australian fur seals, so that's the biggest species that we'll be able to show you down at Tasman Island. And they're very camouflaged with dolerite, so I can see quite a few, but if you're not used to seeing them, it might take you a little bit longer to see your first seal. And once you start to see a few though, you'll notice there are lots of them up on the rocks. Their fur, particularly when it's wet, is very camouflaged with the dolerite. So we're just going to push up to this where we can see the tumble down boulders up in the corner here. We've got a local dive company there, they'll be diving with the seals. They're a very inquisitive species. So once the divers get in the water, these seals will go straight up to them, they'll jump off the rocks, approach the divers, often doing a few barrel rolls around them. They might have a bit of a nibble on their flipper, blow some bubbles in their face. So they are a great species to dive with, kind of like the puppy dogs in the sea. I'm not sure I'd want to dive with the bigger Australian fur seals, they can be a bit bigger, a bit more aggressive. But these little long noses are fantastic. If you're diving here and all of a sudden all the seals get out of the water though, I would definitely do the same thing. It's temperate water here in Tasmania. Temperate is a fancy word for bloody cold.
Okay.
So you're going to be wearing a black wetsuit, you put on a pair of flippers. Essentially you've got yourself into a seal costume. The big problem there is I reckon that you're the slowest dopiest seal in the water. So you can see quite a few of these seals just lazing around on the rocks here. These are the long nose, or what used to be called New Zealand fur seal. Could swim across the ditch, and they established a nice population here in not just Tasmania but mainland Australia as well. But that name change occurred in 2014.
You see the seal, Aries? Yeah, they're sleeping.
They're pretty
Look at them
relaxed
sleeping
up
on the
there. They
rock.
spend most of their day like this,
So
just chilling
cool,
out on the
isn't it,
rocks,
Aries?
doing a bit of soothing. They're not strictly nocturnal, but they do a lot of their hunting at night time. Chasing fish, they will take small seabirds as well, but mostly targeting their favourite at night, so that's why they do their hunting then, or a lot of their hunting. So the squid
Did you see that?
cruising closer to the surface.
I think that's
These
the
guys
baby
use those
Aries.
whiskers known as vibrissae to help fuel those squid.
Is that the
in
baby
dark.
Aries?
And it's set
I
in
think
really
that's a
good
baby
conditions.
seal.
In calm conditions, they can feel their prey move from about 20 metres away, which is pretty cool. And as well as hunting at night, they'll go as far as the continental shelf and beyond. They spend a week or two
Did you see
out
the
there
line
at
on
night
that
sometimes.
stone, Aries?
Again,
It's
chasing
like a
squid.
straight line.
And this
isn't
species
it?
has been recorded diving to over 250 metres deep, which is pretty incredible when you consider they're just a little air-breathing mammal.
Those are big ones.
And again, over sort of the 100 metre mark, it's going to be very dark down there. Those whiskers are essential. So we will start to see a lot more of these seals up amongst these boulders here. This is the sort of area that the long-nosed fur seals like to breed. So although they don't have any predators on land, they will use these little caverns and caves underneath the rocky boulders for a bit of protection for their pups.
Baby seal. Did you see the baby seal?
The black bird there with the orange beak like a parrot is a sooty oyster catcher. So that's the long-nosed fur seal, a much higher pitch than the Australian fur seal you can hear there. Sounds a bit like a P-plater doing a burnout. Where the Australian fur seal's got a much deeper bark. And you'll notice the difference in the colour of that fur. That one that's just got out of the water, that outer layer of fur. So they've got two layers of fur. That outer layer slips back and quite dark when it's wet.
Like, yeah, go and check. Go.
And this is between a 26 and a 28, so definitely not easy. But just in case that protocol wasn't hard enough, you can also climb the candlestick. I mean, it's an easier climb, but it does involve about a metre long cold swim. So you draw the short straw, you swim across, and that's where you make the climb up to the top. Thankfully, something called a Terraline Traverse has been invented. So that is essentially just a monkey crawl across the top with a slack line sort of rope across. So you don't have to do the climb twice. But it's a really lovely view from here. An epic spot to be under the cliffs. Got that beautiful lichen on the rocks as well. So this is a symbiotic relationship between a fungi and an algae. And you can find it all along the Bay of Fires. That beautiful orange colour. And it comes in the white as well.
Did you see that? Yeah, they're actually.
It's pretty epic to see the climbers. We really don't get to see that very often because it's seriously pretty challenging.
Did you see the rusty color?
And you can
Rusty
imagine
stone?
how cold those
Come
rocks
here.
would be. That grey colour
Is it
overnight.
that one?
It's
Rusty-
not even seen
rusty
the
color?
sun yet, so they're
Yeah,
looking
reddish.
freezing.
here, guys. We're going to keep moving along, keep everyone comfortable. Like I mentioned before, the next big cape is Cape Pillar. That's out behind us. We're going to cross this big body of water called Munro Bight. A bit of a hot spot for wildlife, so it's worth keeping an eye out for those birds. And it's about a 15-minute run across the bay here, and we'll get you around the corner and show you Tasman Island.
Stay up there. Make sure you're standing as well. So you hold on against the trees.
A bit of time now just doing some exploring around the island. You are welcome to stand up and come out to the rail. You've probably all noticed this man-made structure up on the rocks here on our left. This is called the Tasman Island Haulage Way. This is how the lighthouse keepers and their families used to get onto the island when the lighthouse was manned. So there is a lighthouse up on top. We'll show you that shortly. And that lighthouse was manned from 1906 through to 1977. There are at least 2 lighthouse keepers, often 3 working out here. And the way that they get onto the island, a big supply ship will come out from Hobart around Cape Row and then park in the deeper water out behind it. They would then load all of their gear into a smaller dinghy, and they would row that into the little gap here between the timber platform and this rock in front of us called Anchor Rock. There was then a steel cable that ran out of that pyramid on the platform down to Anchor Rock. And once the boat was underneath, they'd lower a basket down, a bit like the basket that hangs underneath the hot air balloon. They'd load in the kids, groceries, your grandma, spare parts for the tractor, enough supplies for a couple of months up there. And then that basket, fire and float, get pinched up to the boat there. That's just the start of your trip to work though. From there, if you look above the platform, you can see the remains of a couple of tram tracks running that almost 45 minutes float up the island. So they would unload the baskets, they would put all of their gear into a smaller trolley.
So beautiful, isn't it, Aries?
And then those trolleys would get winched up those tram tracks by another steel cable going up and around a turnstile on top. That turnstile was initially powered by a draft force whisper.
Track is there, not train track, what?
Whisper is very like the job though, so every time a ship can come around Cape Row, Whisper would bolt to the far corner of the island, so he did get upgraded to a diesel engine not long after. But an amazing place to work. Looking at this whole system today, I highly doubt that it would pass today's occupational health and safety standards. And these days access to the island is pretty much exclusively via helicopter. So the light's still in operation, automated in 77, initially going to wind power, but these days with modern solar technology it's batteries and solar panels that power the light. The females and the big males are up in the Bass Strait Islands where they breed. Down here these young males probably separate so that the females who are pregnant for most of the year aren't having to compete with that food source. And down here their ultimate goal in life is just to get as big as they can. It's only the biggest of the males that ever get to breed. So they just want to feed, that's all they do really. And then lay around in their own poop. You notice that white on the rocks, that's from these young males. We saw the long nose up at Cape Boy,
white colour?
rocks.
Do you see the white colour?
These guys just live in this big stinky bachelor pad down here.
Yeah,
we're lucky the wind's not blowing offshore there.
So cool.
And then as we spin around, out on our left hand side, this is definitely my favourite view on our coastline. So to the right we've got Cape Pillar, 1,000 feet or 300 metres of vertical sea cliff towering straight out of the Tasman Sea. That next peak across, called the Blade, and then that rugged bit of coast out to the west known as the Blunt Shore. Notoriously rough bit of water.
Baby seal, baby seal.
It's a pretty spectacular part of the world here. We are on the sheltered northeastern side of the island here. That's why this site was chosen to access the island. We can't most of the time, but they could get stuck up here, the lighthouse keepers, for weeks or months at a time. And to give you a bit of an idea how remote it was, the first 20 odd years of operation, so from 1906, their only communication back to Hobart was via carrier pigeons. So if they had an emergency,
Plateau, so it's pretty much the huge cliffs and then a flat top on it. But the lighthouse itself is made completely of cast iron plates that was prefabricated in Birmingham. Essentially, the government put out a tender to who wanted to take on this project. I think it was something like 12 companies applied for it, and obviously they took the smallest bid, which was £10,000. The cost of the build ended up costing a whopping £22,000 in the end. But it's beautiful, it's still standing, and it's awesome to see it up there from this angle. We've got these little black birds out flying around us as well. They don't look like much, but in fact these birds are pretty impressive. They have the second longest migratory pattern out of any seabird. They're called short-tailed shearwaters or mutton birds, and there's about 24 million of them around our coastlines at the moment. So what happens, they come back to the same burrow every single year. They have a chick, they raise it, they're out catching food for it every single day. By the end of our summer, this chick is about double the size of its parents, and the parents are fed up of this lifestyle. They actually up and leave the chick behind. They head off to the Bering Sea in Alaska, and then that chick slowly starts to lose its extra fat, and it leaves the nest, it takes a few short flights, and then it meets the parents in the Bering Sea in Alaska. So really impressive to see the flocks out here at the moment. We've been missing them for the last few weeks.
What's the name again?
They're called short-tailed shearwater or
Short-tailed shearwater.
Mutton birds also being a very popular food source for California people. That would simply grab the chick out of its nest while its parents are out fishing. But you do have to be careful because sometimes snakes can find their way in there. So you don't want to be putting your hand in those burrows.
well, we do have a little bit of a wobble here though, guys, so we're going to keep things moving along. We just don't want to all end up turning the same colour as the sea. So just starting to push back up the coast, we'll push back around into Munro Bight where we'll get a bit more shelter. So just taking those views of this incredible coast as we run back up to Pirates Bay. We're all going alright. more approaching on our port side on the left there. These common dolphins, they love a little bit of surfing.
Dolphin!
On that bit of a pressure wave which is off the front.
Dolphin! Oh wow! So cool! So cool! Dolphin.
Where that for you, Andrew? Don't get him.
So the most distinguishing feature of these common dolphins is that sort of hourglass pattern down their flank on either side. They're quite a small dolphin. We get the bottlenose here as well, which is much bigger. But you can see they're just happy to cruise with this. More, 9 times out of 10 they'll come straight to the boat. They hear our engines from a fair way off. So they'll just go straight to us. They surf that bow wave in front. Often when we pick up speed, they'll surf the wake out behind us. So really they're just here to have a bit of fun, I think. Just like us, they want to do a bit of surfing.